Hey, what's up, you Latina? Happy Friday. Welcome to the seventh episode of Be Real. Be Real with Benjamin, with me. Thank you so much for joining me today. Good morning from the West Coast. Good afternoon if you're in the East Coast. Today I have an amazing guest in which we will be touching on a topic that I think is super important for everyone to have awareness on and to be able to just have more, ¿cómo les diré? More information, essentially awareness now. So let me just get into it then. So once again, my name is Benjamin. My pronouns are he, his, him, él, if you speak Spanish. And these segments or the Be Real segments are an opportunity for guests to come here and share a little bit about their story, but also, like I said in the beginning, to bring awareness, to talk about topics that are important for our culture. So let me go ahead and invite my guest. A ver, ¿dónde estás? ¿Dónde estás? Here you are. So sent. Thank you for the hearts. Hola, hola.
Hola,
Can you,
déjame bajar esto
can you
un
hear me? ¿Me puedes ver?
poquito. Te escucho, ¿me escuchas a mí? Can you hear me?
Yes, sí te escucho. Muy bien. Me encanta la imagen que tienes atrás. Yes.
El chavo.
El Chavo del Ocho, that was my childhood. Esa fue mi niñez, ¿no? Las enseñanzas y todo con el Chavo del Ocho. Un gran placer, un gran gusto, Luciano. Muchas gracias por reunirte conmigo el día de hoy to be able to talk about something that I think is very important. ¿Te importa que hable en inglés o en español? ¿Cómo prefieres?
I think either both. We can move around and have some Spanglish there if it's needed.
Awesome. Me alegro. Porque sí, yo escribí las preguntas y dije, okay, I have some in Spanish, I have some in English. ¿A cómo vamos? Pero I can adapt. Igual si te sientes a gusto, no pasa nada. Bueno, el día de hoy, I was doing some research and Giselle was telling me that today is the 40th anniversary of when AIDS was first reported. I know today we'll be talking about your story and also to bring awareness on HIV and AIDS. And also today, if I'm not wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, today is the National Latinx AIDS Awareness Day. Bueno, qué presión, qué importancia, porque this is very, super important. You know, when we talk about health, when we talk about those type of topics, in la comunidad latina, it's something that it's not so much talked about, you know, it's so much like in my house, we don't really talk about health. And speaking as a Latino male, Latino males also don't talk about health, mucho menos que van al doctor, ¿no? Entonces, I think today is an amazing conversation. So thank you once again for being here.
Thank you, Benjamin, for the invitation. Yeah, definitely, this is a pleasure for me to be here with all of you. And as you say, to talk about these conversations that are kind of a taboo within our community, right? And we don't talk often about, you say about sex, but even less about HIV, right? Because sometimes we can share some sex, some charlas about sex with our friends or things like that, but not necessarily about the health piece of it, and much less about HIV. So I think it's very important that we start having these kind of conversations.
And let's jump in. Like, what does this day or this topic like mean to you? Why is this important to you?
Well, definitely it's important for me. And as you mentioned, today we recognize October 15, the National HIV/AIDS Awareness, Latinx HIV/AIDS Awareness Day. It was created in 2003, 18 years ago. It was an initiative and a campaign through community mobilization to get together organizations that work with HIV in the Latinx community to say, okay, guys, we need to do something. We need to spread the word about HIV, resources about HIV, invite people to get tested and to find out what's the status, their HIV status. So 18 years ago, right? And we still are struggling with the impact of HIV and AIDS in our community. So for me, it's very important. I'm a person living with HIV. I was diagnosed with HIV in 2011, so 10 years ago. So there's mucha agua bajo el puente después de eso, but definitely is, I become an advocate and a kind of public person to talk about HIV and to bring this conversation that are not often happening in our community. So definitely it's an important day for me.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. And I think one of the beautiful things about having a conversation like this, no nomás is to bring awareness, but also to share stories. And I think you sharing your story is very, very powerful and very impactful. So thank you for the vulnerability. And okay, so how was your life impacted, you know, or how has your life been impacted by HIV?
Uh, at the beginning, I feel terrible, to be honest. You know, it's not something that you want to hear when you go and get an HIV testing. In my case, for example, I was visiting New York and I was feeling sick. So I didn't have medical insurance. I was just here like passing time. When I went to the doctor, to the clinic, because I was feeling very sick, they offered me an HIV testing. And then the doctor who gave me my HIV diagnosis didn't speak Spanish at all. So imagine that receiving a noticia como esta with a doctor who couldn't say anything to me. The information I was receiving was through an interpreter on the phone. So that was very chaotic in my life and I feel terrible. As I say, 10 years passed already. So I have learned a lot and I understood that my fears and my bad feeling about having HIV and my own stigma about having HIV was because of the lack of information. There were no resources necessarily available in Spanish for me to actually understand what I was going through and how to get better and how to access to treatment and how to have a normal life as everyone else with this, you know, new diagnosis. So definitely it was an impact on my life at that time. Now I get the chance to, you know, to change the narrative and to empower myself being a person living with HIV and supporting others living with HIV on sharing resources, especially in Spanish for our Latinx community that are normally the last one on receiving this kind of information. So that was my turnaround when I received my diagnosis.
Yeah, very, very powerful. You know, like someone here, they're showing you love, diciendo que gracias for sharing your experience. And you know, like you said, like part of sharing our stories is allowing others see that they're not alone en esto, ¿no? En lo cualquier cosa, puede ser en salud, en la educación, en la vida, trabajo. So, and you've become an advocate for HIV and AIDS, no? Like to bring awareness and todo para la cultura. You also touched on a little bit of stigmas, los stigmas. Can you tell us, like, what type of stigmas are we talking about when we talk about HIV para la cultura latina?
Yeah, sure. So as you mentioned, I become an advocate because I have so many challenge access to services when I received my diagnosis. I mentioned I didn't have medical insurance. I didn't speak English by that time. Now my English is not perfect, but at least we can communicate. So I have improved that. I'm proud of that. But I had so many challenges, you know, as even the culture for the hospital was very cold, something very different. Not having someone who I can talk to and to learn from their experience. So I understood that nobody have to go through that struggle. And I say, okay, let me be the person that I didn't have when I received my diagnosis. And I started learning about it. I started volunteering for multiple organizations. I found out some organizations that work with the Latino community as well. And I started, you know, working with them and being that support piece of the process with people who was new receiving the HIV diagnosis. When you take that road and when you share in an Instagram live and in a different conference or in an event about your experience living with HIV or your diagnostic with other people, you feel that stigma, right? Because you are exposing to the uninformed beliefs that other people have about persons living with HIV. And it's hard, right? Because you have to take those bullets in order to break the stigma, in order to show to the society that we are people living with HIV, but we are brothers, sisters, sons, cousins, and employers. We are people as everyone else, and we need to change that how people look at us. And a lot of things have changed with HIV as well. This is the reality that we are living right now. It's not the same that in the 80s or in the 90s, right? HIV was associated with death. If you have HIV, you are a person who were going to die sooner or later. So a lot of people still associate that with the disease and with the HIV. And part of my job and part of other advocates on the Latinx communities about HIV is to show that, hey, no, we have improved our life. Medication have advanced, resources have advanced, research have advanced, science have advanced, and we are living a normal life now, right? There is saving medication, saving life medication that we are able to access and to feel better and to be seen.
100%. You mentioned, people who, their brothers, son hermanos, son hermanas, family members. And unfortunately, like what I've seen, right, what I know about it, like mucho rechazo, no, for someone who may have or being diagnosed with HIV. And I'm happy that we're doing this because we should move away from that, like it's having more knowledge, having more awareness, and knowing the resources, hopefully breaking down the stigmas and the work that you do for advocacy to break that down. But no es un rechazo, espérame, let's help, more instead of pushing away, let's help the person. Let's find, and you touched on the medical aspect of things, how interpreters. Desgraciadamente, there's been a lot of situations like that. Even for me right now, I take some of my family members to the doctor, and I have to be the one translating or interpreting, porque no hay personal que hable el español, and it's unfortunate. I know that if you ask for it, they may have it, but sometimes it's not available at the moment. So I'm happy that we could move away from that as well to advocate for more personnel over there. But okay, so awareness, advocacy. How can, and you touched on a little bit about this, but how can families or la cultura latina can gain some of these resources? So how can they get information on HIV and AIDS, given that sometimes a lot of this information could be hard to find, or they don't speak the language?
Yeah, so there is many resources out there and information, a lot, thousand or articles and places where you can go and access to the information. But if the community doesn't know it, they don't know where to go. I didn't know where to go when I was feeling sick. So it's important that we spread the word and about HIV and about the awareness and about those resources, right? And that we make sure that people know that an HIV testing is available most of the time free of cost. There is multiple places in the United States where you can access to an HIV test by free and confidential. But if people doesn't know where to go, it's our job to initiatives like this one, this Faithful Life, and other organizations that are working on the HIV-related field, to tell the community, to share with them, to share with our mother, with our uncles, that they will know someone that may be needing this information, and they will share it with them. So that's the piece of the part of the work that we are doing, especially today, celebrating or recognizing National Latino AIDS Awareness Day. And you were talking about rechazo, right? And that's I want to circle back to that because it's very important. We feel rechazo all the time, and being a single gay man, that is even deeper, right? When you try to date someone, there is a lot of misinformation, and I think that's the base of the rechazo, is the lack of information about it. There are still people out there that think that HIV can be transmitted just to hug someone or to give a kiss, to share in the same bathroom or the same, cuchara y tenedor y el plato y el vaso. So there is a lot of misinformation that we need to put out there. We need to share with people. We need to educate our community. When I was talking about resources, there are so many, but most of them are in English, right? Or are prioritizing certain communities. The minorities are not necessarily the one. If you look at HIV, minorities are the target for stigma and discrimination. But when we have the resources and when we have to share it, we are not the one receiving it. Usually go to other community first. So that's why we need to break that, and we need to make sure that we have a special day. We do this work every day, but that we have a special day to share big, en grande, todos juntos, la información with our community.
Sí, 100%. Como ahorita no estamos terminando Latinx Hispanic Heritage Month, ¿no? Y pues yo no soy latino nada más un mes, like it's all year. So I think it's important to bring awareness the whole year, but I'm happy that there is a day. I did not know this was a day, so hasta yo también estoy aprendiendo, and to be able to have, ¿cómo te diré? Conciencia sobre esto. Okay, so I have a question, like a scenario. Como I referenced in the beginning, por ejemplo, el hombre latino, la familia, doesn't want to go to the doctor, for the most part males, right? How do we guide someone to get tested? How do we guide someone to ¿sabes qué? Es importante que hagamos este tipo de exámenes. What kind of conversations tips can you provide?
Sure. Very important what you're saying. We usually don't go to the doctor, and there is many reasons why we don't go to the doctor, especially in this country as a Latinx, as an immigrants. We don't go to the doctor because we don't have. Some of us don't have access to medical insurance, so who is going to pay for it? Medical expenses here in United States are very expensive. So who is going to go to the doctor? Others have fear about being undocumented and how this can impact, their immigration status here in this country. Thankfully, there is no connection between public health and immigration, so people can access to hospital and clinics to receive this kind of services without fear of being deported. So there is many reasons why we hold back and going to the hospital. And also part of the, the machismo, and I am male, I feel strong, I don't need a doctor, right? So there is many reasons why we are not going. How can we recommend or advise someone to go and see the doctor? I think personally that HIV should be a routine test that we do, especially every 6 months. But okay, if that is a lot for you or for people who is starting, okay, let's do it once a month. If you are having sex, if you are sharing needles, if you are, if you receive, blood or a transplant, it's important, that you are checking yourself, that you are feeling healthy is not necessarily a sign that you don't have HIV. So I think it's important to have the conversation and to share information. I think that people don't go to get tested because they don't know where to go, or maybe they don't recognize their own risk, right? They may think, okay, I'm a person who is married and I only have a sexual relationship with my partner, but we are not with our partner, 24 hours a day. So you should check on you. You should, don't let your health, don't put your health in the hands of someone else. Just go check. If you're in a couple, go together. It's part of a healthy relationship. Kind of tip for them to go get tested and make sure that they're fine. And if something come out, there's multiple options that you can access to, feel better and to control HIV and to live a healthy life with it.
Me encanta esa parte. Have it to be something that just happens when you go to the doctor. Okay, it's a routine for HIV. It's like a routine for, we check your weight, we check your eyesight, we check todo esto. Pues también eso. I think that would be a great way to break the stigma. It's like, I got tested, like everybody else. I love that answer. And you mentioned something too. Mucha gente está in this denial. It's not gonna happen to me. It's not gonna happen to me. No, it's not gonna happen. How could it? Like, ¿cuál es la probabilidad? No, I feel great. Some of the denial, no, the denial. And I think, like, no, well, you may feel great, but you should still get tested. It's very important, you know. Like como ahorita en el mundo que vivimos con el COVID, I may feel great, but I may have COVID with me and maybe transmitirlo a otras personas, no? So it's like, you should still get tested regardless. And, tenía la pregunta aquí, se me fue. Okay, so see, if you would have had information or knowledge and awareness of HIV, como los recursos y todo eso, más información, ¿tú crees que when you got your diagnosis, your reaction would have been different or would it have been the same?
Thank you for that question, and thank you for the example about COVID, because it's a perfect example, right? Maybe we don't feel sick, but we can still have COVID. Maybe we don't feel sick, but we can still have HIV. There is no like clear symptoms, at least not at the beginning, that you can say, oh, this is because I have HIV, right? So it's important to check often on it, especially if you are sexually active. My reaction, I don't know. I didn't have the information, but my guess is that I will react completely different. And the most important thing is that probably, and again, I didn't have the information, so I don't know, but probably if I had the information, there were many big chances of that I will not have HIV. Right? Because I will know how to prevent it. I will know how to, take care of myself, making sure that I use all the tools that are available today to prevent HIV and to not getting it. So probably that will be, but definitely if it happens and I still get HIV, I think that my reaction was going to be less stressful. Definitely it's not something that you want to hear, but definitely less stressful, because I will know that I will have a long life, a healthy life. When I receive it, what I was thinking is, okay, when I'm going to die? And actually was one of the questions that I asked to my doctor. Okay, how long, I have? But no, definitely knowing the information now, I understand that this is gonna be Luciano for a rato.
I love it. I agree. Like you mentioned, not just be aware of the disease, but also también how to prevent it, no? How to stay safe, how to be safe if you are, sexually active. And I think that's very important. I think here in school, when I was in high school, in la preparatoria, we only got a class on preventing pregnancy. Oh, don't get pregnant, use this, pero yo creo que en esa clase de salud faltó mucho más cosas que la juventud tenía que saber, de las cosas que tenemos que aprender, and not just the pregnancy, because when we just talk about pregnancy, entonces nomás es la mujer que tiene que cuidar, like what are we talking about here, So I think there's a lot of changes, even in the education system, que pueden cambiar para que informar más a la juventud y essentially the community, no?
Yeah.
All right, cool. And any advice you have for la gente que esté escuchando? Algún consejo que quieras dejarles?
Thank you. And thank you for bringing that about the school. I think we need to do a lot of work on updating our curriculum of sex education in our school as early as possible. People need to have access to the information, and also update it, because there is not too many, and those that do provide sex education on the school are very binary and very heterosexual kind of style, and are not necessarily reflecting the reality and our diversity as a human beings. So I think that's very important, and to bring other topics as well in the school. Advice: go and get tested. If you don't know your status, it has gone a long time that you didn't get tested, go get tested. Take the opportunity today. A lot of people are having different events promoting free HIV testing, confidential. Don't be afraid. I think is, sometimes you have conversation, what I'm going to do if I get a positive result, but know that there is many research out there. Touch base with your friends. Talk about HIV. Even though if you don't go and get tested, talk about HIV. Maybe someone that is listening to you will you will plant the seed, and maybe that person has some doubts, and will go and find out what's the status. The best know the best way to know if you're to be positive or not is making, having an actual test of it and no supposing o pensando, oh, no, yo creo que no, ¿verdad? La mejor manera de saberlo es ir y hacerte la prueba.
De acuerdo, muy de acuerdo. Muchas gracias, Luciano. This was such an amazing conversation. Your story, your work, your passion. I think se transmite por la ¿cómo se translates through the screen. No? So thank you so much, and te deseo mucha suerte y continúa cualquier cosa que necesites. I'm here to support within my own page. With Be Latina, I know is very supportive. So muchas gracias.
Thank you so much, Benjamin. Thank you for the opportunity and for the space to share this with our community.
And everybody else, thank you so much for being here. Remember to be authentic, be real, and be Latina. Muchas gracias.